Marcus forced himself to think clearly as the smoke grew thicker around him. He remembered his survival training from SEAL school. When trapped, always look up, down, and around for escape routes that others might miss. Most people only thought about doors and windows, but there were always other ways. He looked up at the ceiling tiles. In most office buildings, there was empty space above the dropped ceiling where electrical wires and air ducts ran. If he could get up there, he might be able to crawl to another section of the building that was not locked down. Marcus grabbed a chair from a nearby office and climbed up carefully. He pushed up one of the ceiling tiles and stuck his head through the opening. The space above was dark and cramped, but it looked like it went all the way across the building. Thick metal air ducts ran through the area, along with bundles of electrical cables. He pulled himself up into the ceiling space, trying not to put too much weight on the thin metal framework that held up the tiles. The space was only about 3 feet high, so he had to crawl on his hands and knees. It was hot and dusty, and he could barely see where he was going. As Marcus crawled through the darkness, he could hear the fire growing stronger below him. The crackling had turned into a roaring sound, and he could feel heat coming up through the ceiling tiles. The fire was spreading faster than he had hoped. He needed to move quickly before the ceiling became too hot to touch. Marcus followed what he thought was the direction of the main hallway, hoping to find an area where the lockdown doors had not been activated. His military training had taught him to count his movements and keep track of direction even in complete darkness. After crawling for what felt like 20 feet, he carefully lifted another ceiling tile to look down. Below him was another hallway that looked exactly like the one he had left behind. But when he dropped down and tried the emergency door, it was also locked tight. The red light glowed steadily, showing that this area was part of the same lockdown zone. Marcus realized the building's safety system had sealed off a much larger area than he had thought. The smoke was starting to seep into this hallway too, coming through the ventilation system. Marcus knew that smoke could travel through air ducts and spread throughout the building. Soon, every area connected to the same air system would be filled with deadly smoke, even if the fire had not reached those places yet. Marcus went back up into the ceiling and continued crawling, this time heading toward what he hoped was the center of the building. His knees were getting scraped on the rough metal framework, and his back ached from staying bent over in the cramped space. But he kept moving, driven by the knowledge that stopping meant death. After another 10 minutes of crawling, Marcus found something interesting. There was a large metal air duct that seemed to run in a different direction from the others. This duct was bigger, about 2 feet wide and 18 inches tall. It looked like it might be part of the main ventilation system that served the whole building. Marcus tested the duct by pressing on it gently. It seemed solid enough to hold his weight. If he could get inside it and follow it to another part of the building, he might be able to escape the locked-down area. It would be tight, but he had crawled through worse spaces during military training. He found where the duct connected to a larger junction box and carefully removed some of the metal screws holding it together. The screws were tight, and he had to use his keys as a makeshift screwdriver. His fingers were getting cut on the sharp metal edges, but he ignored the pain and kept working. Finally, Marcus got the duct opening loose enough to squeeze through. He crawled inside, pushing himself forward with his elbows and feet. The metal was cold against his body, which felt good after the growing heat in the ceiling space. But the duct was even more cramped than the ceiling area, and he could barely move. As he crawled through the darkness inside the air duct, Marcus could hear different sounds around him. There were voices somewhere in the distance, probably firefighters who had arrived at the building. He tried to shout for help, but his voice just echoed weakly in the metal tube. No one could hear him through the thick walls and layers of building materials. Marcus kept crawling forward, following the duct as it twisted and turned through the building's interior. Sometimes the duct went up at an angle, making it harder to climb. Other times it went down and he had to be careful not to slide too fast and hurt himself on the metal edges. After what felt like an hour but was probably only 20 minutes, Marcus saw a dim light ahead of him. The duct seemed to open into another area. As he got closer, he could hear different sounds, normal building noises instead of the roaring fire. He had made it to a different part of the building. Marcus carefully pushed out the vent cover and found himself looking down into a bathroom on what appeared to be a different floor. The air was clear with no smoke. He could hear people talking in the hallway outside. Evacuation procedures were happening, but this area had not been locked down. But as Marcus prepared to climb down from the vent, he heard something that made his blood run cold. Over the building's intercom system, a voice was announcing that all evacuation routes were being sealed to contain the fire. The lockdown was expanding to include more areas of the building. Marcus realized he had only minutes before this area would also be sealed off. And somewhere in the building, there might be other people who were trapped just like he had been. His SEAL training told him that the mission was not complete until everyone was safe. He had to decide whether to save himself or try to help others who might be in danger. Marcus Rodriguez had been out of the Navy for 3 years, but his training never left him. The 32-year-old former SEAL now worked as a security consultant for high-end office buildings in downtown Chicago. His job was supposed to be easy: walk around, check doors, make sure everything was safe. Nothing like the dangerous missions he used to do overseas. On that cold Tuesday morning in February, Marcus arrived at the 40-story Millennium Tower at 6 in the morning. The building was mostly empty except for a few early workers and cleaning crews. He liked the quiet hours before the business day started. It gave him time to think and stay alert without dealing with crowds of people. Marcus started his rounds on the 20th floor, checking each office door and emergency exit. The building was only 5 years old, with all the latest safety equipment. Fire alarms, sprinkler systems, emergency lighting, everything was top quality. The building owners spent millions making sure their tenants felt safe. As he walked down the hallway, Marcus noticed something strange. There was a faint smell in the air like someone had been smoking. But smoking was not allowed anywhere in the building. He followed his nose, trying to find where the smell was coming from. His military training had taught him to pay attention to small details that others might miss. The smell got stronger as he walked toward the east side of the building. Marcus quickened his pace, his instincts telling him something was wrong. He had learned to trust these feelings during his 8 years in the Navy. They had saved his life more than once during combat missions in Afghanistan and Iraq. When he reached the corner office, Marcus saw a thin line of smoke coming from under the door. His heart started beating faster. He touched the door handle with the back of his hand. It was warm, not hot. Inside, he could hear a crackling sound that made his stomach drop. Fire. Marcus immediately called 911 on his radio, reporting a fire on the 20th floor. The dispatcher told him the fire department was on their way and asked him to evacuate the area. But Marcus knew something the dispatcher did not know. The building's automatic systems had already started working. When a fire was detected, the building's computer system was designed to lock down certain areas to prevent the fire from spreading. Heavy steel doors would automatically close and seal off sections of the building. It was supposed to keep people safe by containing the fire to one area. But Marcus was still inside that area. He tried to leave the way he came, but the heavy security door at the end of the hallway had already slammed shut. The electronic lock showed a red light, meaning it was sealed tight. Marcus pulled on the handle with all his strength, but the door would not move even an inch. Behind him, the crackling sound was getting louder. Smoke was starting to fill the hallway, making it harder to see and breathe. Marcus felt along the walls, looking for another way out. There had to be emergency exits, fire stairs, something he could use to escape. He found the emergency stairwell door and pushed on it hard. Nothing. The red light on this door was also glowing, showing it was locked down tight. Marcus realized the building's safety system had turned into a trap. The very thing designed to protect people was now keeping him locked inside with a growing fire. The smoke was getting thicker, and Marcus could feel the temperature rising. He pulled out his phone to call for help, but there was no signal. The building's thick walls and steel doors were blocking everything. He was completely cut off from the outside world. Marcus forced himself to stay calm. Panic would kill him faster than the fire. He had been in worse situations during his military service. In Iraq, he had been trapped in a collapsed building for 6 hours, while enemy fighters searched for him outside. He had survived that, and he would survive this too. But this was different. In Iraq, he had his team and weapons. Here, he was alone with nothing but his wits and whatever he could find in an office building. The fire was spreading, the doors were locked, and no one knew exactly where he was inside the sealed area. Marcus looked around the hallway, searching for anything that might help him. There were fire extinguishers on the walls, but they would not be enough to stop a real fire. There were windows, but they were 40 feet above the ground with no way to climb down safely. He needed to think like a SEAL again. What would his old team leader say? Use what you have, find what you need, never give up. Marcus had lived by those words for 8 years of military service. Now his life depended on them again. The crackling sound behind him was getting much louder. Orange light was starting to show under the office door. Marcus knew he did not have much time before the fire broke out into the hallway. Once that happened, the smoke and heat would make it impossible to think clearly or move around safely. He had to find a way out before the flames took over completely. His SEAL training had taught him that there was always a solution, even in the most impossible situations. He just had to find it before it was too late. Marcus dropped down from the vent into the bathroom and immediately ran to the door. He could hear voices in the hallway. People were still evacuating this floor. When he opened the door, he saw office workers walking quickly toward the emergency exits, guided by building security guards. The evacuation was organized but urgent. Wait, Marcus called out to one of the security guards. There are people trapped on the 20th floor. The lockdown system sealed the area before everyone could get out. The security guard looked confused. Sir, you need to evacuate immediately. The fire department is handling everything. I just came from up there, Marcus said urgently. I'm building security too. Marcus Rodriguez, the automatic lockdown trapped people inside with the fire. We need to tell the fire department exactly where to look. The guard spoke into his radio, but Marcus could not wait for the slow chain of communication. Every minute meant the fire was getting worse and any trapped people were in more danger. He had to find the fire department commander and tell them directly what he had seen. Marcus ran toward the emergency stairwell, going against the flow of people evacuating. The stairs were crowded with office workers moving down slowly and carefully. Marcus pushed past them as politely as he could, heading up toward where the firefighters would be setting up their operations. On the 15th floor, Marcus found what he was looking for. The stairwell landing had been turned into a command post, with firefighters in full gear preparing to go higher in the building. Their captain was studying building plans and talking into a radio about water pressure and access routes. Captain, Marcus called out, I need to talk to you about the 20th floor. The fire captain looked up at Marcus, taking in his torn clothes and smoke-stained face. Sir, you need to evacuate. This area is not safe for civilians. I'm not a civilian, Marcus said quickly. Former Navy SEAL, 8 years active duty. I work security in this building, and I was just trapped on the 20th floor where the fire started. Your men need to know about the automatic lockdown system. The captain's expression changed when he heard Marcus's background. Talk fast. What do you know? Marcus pointed to the building plans the captain was holding. The fire started in an office on the east side of the 20th floor. When the fire was detected, the building's computer locked down all the security doors in that section. Heavy steel doors, electronic locks. I got trapped inside and had to escape through the air ducts. How many people were in that section? The captain asked. I don't know for sure, but I saw at least 2 cleaning crew members working in that area when I started my rounds. They might still be trapped up there. The doors won't open with normal keys or even emergency releases when the lockdown is active. The fire captain immediately got on his radio. Command, we have information about trapped civilians on 20. The building's security system has locked down the fire area. We need the building engineer to override the electronic locks before we can access that section. Marcus could hear the response crackling through the radio. The building engineer was already on site, but it would take time to override the system safely. The computer that controlled the locks was designed to prevent tampering even during emergencies. Captain, there's something else, Marcus said. The air duct system connects the locked area to the rest of the building. Smoke is going to spread through the ventilation faster than you might expect, and if the fire gets hot enough, it could damage the electronic systems that control the locks. The captain nodded grimly. If the electronics fail, those doors could be locked permanently until we can cut through them with special equipment. That could take hours. Marcus looked at the building plans, studying the layout with his trained eye. There might be another way. I escaped through the main ventilation duct, but it was barely big enough for me. Your men in full gear would never fit, but I could go back and guide any trapped people through the same route. Absolutely not, the captain said firmly. I'm not sending a civilian back into a fire zone. With respect, Captain, I'm not just any civilian. I've been in worse situations than this during military operations. And I know the route now. I could get back to the trapped area faster than your men can cut through those doors." The captain was quiet for a moment, clearly thinking hard. Around them, firefighters were preparing equipment and checking their breathing apparatus. Time was running out for anyone trapped on the 20th floor. "Even if I agreed to this crazy plan," the captain said, "how would you communicate with us? How would we know if you found anyone or if you got in trouble?" Marcus thought quickly. "Give me one of your portable radios. I'll stay in contact every few minutes. If something goes wrong, you'll know immediately. And I'll only look for trapped people. I won't try to fight the fire or do anything beyond my training." Another firefighter ran up to the captain with an update. "Sir, the building engineer says it will take at least 30 minutes to override the lockdown system safely. Maybe longer if the fire has damaged any of the control circuits." The captain looked at Marcus again, clearly wrestling with a difficult decision. 30 minutes was a long time for people trapped with a growing fire, but sending an untrained person back into danger went against everything in his training. "Captain," Marcus said quietly, "in the Navy we had a saying, the only easy day was yesterday. Today is hard, but that's when good people step up to help others. I know the risks and I accept them. Let me try to save those people." The captain stared at Marcus for a long moment, then made his decision. "Johnson, give him a radio and a portable breathing mask. Set it to our tactical frequency." He turned back to Marcus. "You have 20 minutes. Check in every 5 minutes. If you don't find anyone in the first 10 minutes, you come back immediately. If you find people, guide them to the duct system, but don't take any unnecessary risks. We'll have cutting equipment working on the doors as backup." Marcus took the radio and breathing mask, testing both to make sure they worked properly. "Understood, Captain. I'll bring them home." As Marcus headed back toward the air duct access point, he felt the familiar calm that came before dangerous missions. His SEAL training was taking over, pushing away fear and doubt. Somewhere above him, people were counting on him to save their lives even if they did not know it yet. Marcus climbed back up into the ceiling space, this time with a portable radio clipped to his belt and a breathing mask ready to use. The route through the air duct seemed longer going back, but he moved faster now that he knew the way. The metal was getting warmer, telling him the fire was spreading below. "Command, this is Rodriguez," he spoke into the radio as he crawled through the duct. "I'm halfway back to the fire zone. Duct temperature is rising, but still manageable." "Copy that, Rodriguez. Building engineer estimates 15 more minutes to override the locks." "How's your air supply?" Marcus checked his breathing mask. "Good for another hour if I'm careful." Moving to the locked area now. When Marcus reached the area where he had first been trapped, the situation was much worse. Thick smoke filled the hallways and he could see orange light dancing under several office doors. The fire had spread to multiple rooms, creating a dangerous maze of heat and flames. Marcus put on his breathing mask and dropped down from the ceiling. The heat hit him immediately, even through his clothes. He crouched low where the air was slightly cooler and called out as loudly as he could. "Hello? Anyone there? This is building security. I'm here to help." At first he heard only the roar of flames and the crackling of burning materials. Then faintly he heard something else, a human voice calling for help. It was coming from the north side of the locked area, away from where the fire had started. Marcus crawled through the smoke-filled hallway, following the voice. The floor was getting hot under his hands and knees, and he could feel the heat through his clothes. But his military training had taught him to push through discomfort when lives were at stake. "Keep calling," Marcus shouted. "I'm coming to you." The voice got louder as he got closer. "Over here. We're in the supply room. The door is stuck." Marcus found the supply room door and tried the handle. It was not locked electronically like the main exits, but something was blocking it from the inside. "How many people are in there?" He called through the door. "3 of us. Maria, Tom, and myself. We're part of the cleaning crew." Something fell against the door when the building shook. "We can't move it." Marcus could hear the fear in the woman's voice. He pushed against the door with all his strength, but it would only open a few inches. Through the gap, he could see that a heavy metal shelving unit had fallen over, blocking the door. "Listen to me," Marcus called through the opening. "My name is Marcus. I'm going to get you out, but I need you to help."
"Can you see the shelving unit that's blocking the door?"
"Yes," came the reply. "It's really heavy. We tried to move it, but it won't budge." Marcus thought quickly. The shelving unit was too heavy for the people inside to move alone, and he could not get enough leverage from outside to help them. "But there might be another way. Is there anything in the room you can use as a lever?" A mop handle, a broom, anything long and strong? There's a metal mop handle, one of the men called out. But I don't know how to use it to move this thing. Okay, listen carefully, Marcus said, his SEAL training kicking in as he analyzed the problem. You need to use the mop handle as a pry bar. Find the corner of the shelving unit that's closest to the door. Wedge the mop handle under that corner and push down on the other end. The three of you working together should be able to lift it enough for me to help push the door open. Marcus could hear them moving around inside, trying to position the mop handle. Command, this is Rodriguez, he spoke into his radio. Found 3 trapped people in a supply room. Working to extract them now. Copy, Rodriguez. Building engineer says 8 more minutes on the door locks. How's the fire situation? Marcus looked around the hallway. The orange glow was getting brighter, and the temperature was rising fast. Fire is spreading. We need to move quickly. Ready, called the woman from inside the supply room. We have the mop handle in position. On my count, Marcus said. Push down on your end while I push on the door. 1, 2, 3. Marcus threw his weight against the door while the 3 people inside pushed down on the mop handle. The shelving unit moved slightly, but not enough. The door opened another inch or 2, but Marcus still could not squeeze through. Again, Marcus called. Put everything you have into it. This time, the shelving unit shifted enough for Marcus to get his arm through the opening. He grabbed the edge of the metal shelf and pulled while the others pushed with the mop handle. Slowly, the heavy unit moved away from the door. As soon as the opening was wide enough, Marcus squeezed through into the supply room. 3 scared faces looked at him through the smoky air. 2 women and 1 man, all wearing cleaning crew uniforms. They were coughing from the smoke but seemed uninjured. Are any of you hurt? Marcus asked quickly. No, just scared, said Maria, the woman who had been calling for help. How do we get out? All the doors are locked. I know a way, Marcus said, but it's going to be tight and uncomfortable. We have to go through the air ducts above the ceiling. Can all of you crawl through a space about 2 feet high? The 3 cleaning crew members looked uncertain, but Tom nodded. If it gets us out of here, we'll do whatever you say. Marcus could hear his radio crackling. Rodriguez, building engineer, reports problems with the override system. The fire may have damaged some control circuits. Could be 20 more minutes. 20 minutes was too long. Marcus could feel the heat getting worse and the smoke was getting thicker even with his breathing mask. They had to use the air duct route now. Listen to me, Marcus told the 3 trapped workers. We're going up into the ceiling and crawling through an air duct to safety. Stay close behind me, move when I move, stop when I stop. If anyone gets stuck or hurt, call out immediately. We're all getting out of here together. Marcus grabbed a chair and positioned it under the ceiling access point he had used before. Maria, you go first. Then Tom, then... He looked at the 3rd worker, a younger woman who had not spoken yet. Janet, she said quietly, I'm really scared of tight spaces. Marcus looked directly at her, using the same calm voice he had used with frightened civilians during military operations. Janet, I know you're scared, but I've done this route before, and I'll be right behind you the whole time. We'll take it slow and easy. You can do this. The sound of breaking glass came from somewhere in the building and the temperature jumped noticeably. They were out of time for encouragement. Marcus helped Maria climb up into the ceiling. Then Tom, then Janet. Finally, he pulled himself up, sealing the ceiling tile behind them. Now came the hardest part, guiding 3 untrained people through a cramped, dark air duct while a fire raged below them. Moving through the ceiling space with 3 untrained people was much harder than Marcus had expected. Maria was doing well, following his instructions to crawl carefully and avoid putting weight on the thin ceiling tiles. Tom was struggling more, breathing heavily and moving slowly. But Janet was having real problems. I can't do this, Janet whispered, her voice shaking. It's too tight. I can't breathe. Marcus could hear the panic starting in her voice. He had seen this before during military training. People who hit their psychological limits in confined spaces. If Janet panicked completely, she could freeze up and block the way for everyone. Janet, look at me, Marcus said in his calmest voice. You're doing great. We've already made it halfway. Just focus on my voice and follow Maria in front of you. Don't think about the space around you. Just think about moving forward 1 crawl at a time. Behind them, Marcus could hear new sounds. The roar of the fire was getting louder, and there were cracking noises that sounded like structural damage. The fire was spreading faster than anyone had predicted. Command, this is Rodriguez, Marcus spoke quietly into his radio. I have the 3 trapped people. We're moving through the ceiling route, but it's slow going. What's the status on those door locks? Rodriguez, we have a problem. The fire has damaged more control systems than we thought. Building engineer says the electronic locks may not respond to override commands at all now. How close are you to the safe area? Marcus tried to estimate their progress in the dark. Maybe 10 more minutes if we don't hit any obstacles. But one of my people is having trouble with the confined space. Copy that. Fire department is bringing cutting equipment to work on the doors from the outside, but it's going to take time. Your route may be the only way out for those people. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. These 3 people's lives depended entirely on his ability to guide them through the duct system. There was no backup plan anymore. Okay, everyone, we need to pick up the pace a little, Marcus said. The building is getting more dangerous behind us. Janet, I know this is hard, but you're tougher than you think. Maria and Tom are counting on you, and I'm counting on you. We're a team now. Janet took a shaky breath but started moving forward again. Okay, I'll try. They reached the main air duct that Marcus had used for his escape route. One by one, he helped each person squeeze through the opening. The duct was even tighter with 4 people, and they had to move in single file with no room to pass each other. Marcus went first, followed by Maria, then Janet, with Tom bringing up the rear. The metal duct echoed with their breathing, and the sounds of their clothes scraping against the sides. It was hot, dark, and uncomfortable, but they were making progress. Halfway through the duct, Janet stopped moving. I'm stuck, she said, her voice rising with panic. Something caught my shirt and I can't move forward or backward. Marcus could hear her breathing getting faster and shallower. She was on the edge of a full panic attack, which could be dangerous for everyone in the confined space. Maria, can you reach back and help her? Marcus asked. I'm trying, but I can't turn around enough in here, Maria replied. Marcus made a quick decision. Everyone stay exactly where you are. I'm coming back. In the tight duct, Marcus had to carefully reverse direction, backing up inch by inch until he could reach Janet. He could feel that part of her shirt had caught on a sharp edge where 2 pieces of ductwork joined together. Janet, I need you to stay very still while I free your shirt, Marcus said. Don't try to pull or push. Just breathe slowly and let me work. Marcus carefully worked the fabric free from the metal edge, trying not to tear it and create a bigger problem. His hands were getting scraped on the sharp metal, but he ignored the pain. After what felt like forever but was probably only 2 minutes, Janet's shirt came loose. You're free, Marcus told her. Now we're going to move very slowly and carefully. If you feel anything catch again, stop immediately and tell me. They started moving forward again, but Marcus could tell that Janet was close to her breaking point. Her breathing was still too fast, and she was moving in jerky, panicked motions instead of smooth crawls. Then Marcus heard something that made his heart sink. Behind them, there was a loud crashing sound followed by a whoosh of superheated air. Part of the ceiling in the area they had just left must have collapsed, and the fire was now burning directly below the duct system. The temperature in the duct immediately started rising. Within minutes, the metal around them would be too hot to touch safely. Everyone, we need to move fast now, Marcus said urgently. The fire's right behind us. Maria, lead us forward as quickly as you can. Don't worry about being careful anymore, just move. Maria understood the urgency and started crawling faster. Tom picked up the pace too, but Janet was still moving slowly, now paralyzed by fear of both the tight space and the approaching fire. I can't go any faster, Janet said, starting to cry. I'm going to die in here. Marcus made another split-second decision. Tom, can you reach Janet from behind? Yes, barely. Put your hands on her ankles and help push her forward when she crawls. Not hard, just steady pressure to help her move. Janet, don't fight it, just let Tom help guide you. With Tom pushing gently from behind and Maria calling encouragement from the front, Janet started moving faster despite her fear. The temperature was rising quickly now, and Marcus could smell smoke entering the ductwork. Just when Marcus thought they might not make it, Maria called out from ahead. I can see light. There's an opening here. One by one, they squeezed out of the duct into the bathroom where Marcus had first escaped. The cool air felt amazing after the heat of the ductwork. All 4 of them were covered in dust and sweat, with scrapes and bruises from crawling through the tight spaces, but they were alive and they were safe. Command. This is Rodriguez, Marcus said into his radio, breathing hard. All 4 of us are out of the fire zone. The 3 trapped civilians are safe and uninjured. Outstanding work, Rodriguez. Medical teams are standing by to check everyone over. You did good today. Marcus helped Maria, Tom, and Janet toward the emergency stairs where firefighters were waiting to escort them down to safety. As they walked, Janet grabbed his arm. "Thank you," she said simply. "You saved our lives." Marcus nodded, but he was already thinking about the firefighters who were still working to contain the blaze. The building was still in danger, and there might be other people who needed help. His job was not finished yet. After making sure Maria, Tom, and Janet were safely with the medical teams, Marcus returned to the fire command post. The captain who had authorized his rescue mission looked relieved to see him back safely. "Rodriguez, that was exceptional work up there," the captain said. "Those 3 people owe you their lives. But I need you to know, the situation has gotten worse. The fire spread faster than we expected, and we think there might be more people trapped in other parts of the building." Marcus looked at the building plans the captain was holding. Red marks showed where the fire had spread, and there were several areas that firefighters had not been able to reach yet. The automatic lockdown system had created multiple isolated zones throughout the building. "What do you need me to do?" Marcus asked without hesitation. "Nothing more," the captain said firmly. "You've done enough. You're not trained for this, and I can't ask you to risk your life again." But Marcus was already studying the building plans, his military training automatically analyzing the situation. "Captain, your men are carrying 60 pounds of gear and breathing apparatus. They can't move through tight spaces like I can, and I know this building better than anyone else here. Rodriguez, I appreciate your courage, but—" "Sir," Marcus interrupted respectfully, "in the Navy, we had a principle. Leave no one behind. There are people in this building who are counting on us to save them, even if they don't know it. I can't walk away knowing I might be their only chance." The captain was quiet for a moment, clearly struggling with the decision. Around them, firefighters were preparing for dangerous interior attacks on the fire, knowing that every minute of delay meant more risk for anyone still trapped inside. "There's a problem with the building's communication system," the captain finally said. "We can't reach several floors to confirm if they've been fully evacuated. The elevators are shut down, and some of the stairwells are blocked by smoke. We need someone who can move through alternative routes to do a final sweep." Marcus nodded. "Which floors are you most worried about?" "Floors 16 and 17. They house a call center that operates 24 hours. We evacuated most of the workers, but the supervisor thinks some people might have gone to break rooms or storage areas when the alarm started. With all the confusion, they might not have heard the evacuation orders." Marcus looked at the building plans again. Floors 16 and 17 were directly below the fire zone, which meant they would be filling with smoke soon if they had not already. The automatic lockdown system might have sealed some areas there too, trapping people just like what had happened to him. "I'll need another breathing mask and radio," Marcus said, "and this time I want a backup communication method. If the radios fail, I need a way to signal you." The captain handed him fresh equipment. "Use the emergency lights. If you find people and can't get them out safely, turn the emergency lights on and off 3 times in any room with windows. We'll have spotters watching for that signal." Marcus checked his equipment one more time, then headed for the stairwell. The smoke was getting thicker as he went up, even with his breathing mask. On the 16th floor, he found a scene of controlled chaos. Office workers had evacuated quickly, leaving computers running and coffee still warm on desks. "Hello?" Marcus called out as he moved through the floor. "Building security? Anyone still here?" At first, there was no response. But as Marcus moved deeper into the office space, he heard something, a faint tapping sound coming from somewhere ahead of him. Someone was trapped and trying to signal for help. Marcus followed the sound to a heavy door marked Data Storage Room. The electronic lock was showing a red light, just like the doors that had trapped him earlier. Someone was inside, tapping on the door in a steady rhythm. "Can you hear me?" Marcus called through the door. "Yes." "Thank God," came a muffled voice. The door locked automatically when the fire alarm went off. "I was doing backup procedures and got trapped inside." "How many people are in there with you?" "Just me, but I can't get out and it's getting really warm in here." Marcus tried the manual release on the door, but it did not work. The electronic lockdown system had overridden all normal controls. He would have to find another way to get the person out. Looking around the area, Marcus spotted a maintenance panel on the wall near the data room. Inside were manual controls for various building systems, including emergency overrides for some electronic locks. It was worth a try. Marcus studied the switches and labels inside the panel. Most of them required special keys or tools, but there was one marked Emergency Door Release, Floor 16, that had a simple toggle switch. He flipped the switch and heard a click from the data room door. The door opened and a young man in a company IT shirt practically fell out. "Thank you so much. I thought I was going to die in there." "What's your name?" Marcus asked as he helped steady the man. "David Chen. I work in the IT department. I was running the nightly backup procedures when everything went crazy. David, we need to get you out of here right away. The fire is spreading and this floor isn't safe anymore." As they headed toward the emergency stairwell, David suddenly stopped. "Wait, there might be someone else." Jenny from accounting said she was going to the 17th floor to get some files before evacuating. "That was over an hour ago, but I haven't seen her come back down." Marcus felt his stomach drop. If someone was still on the 17th floor, they were in immediate danger. That floor was even closer to the fire, and the smoke would be much worse there. "David, go down to the 15th floor and find the firefighters," Marcus said. "Tell them exactly what you told me about Jenny. Give them her full name and description if you can." "What about you?" "I'm going up to 17 to look for her." David grabbed Marcus's arm. "That's crazy." The whole floor could be on fire by now. Marcus gently removed David's hand. "This is what I do. Get to safety and make sure the firefighters know about Jenny." Marcus watched David head down the stairwell, then turned and climbed up to the 17th floor. The smoke was much thicker here, and he could feel heat coming through the walls. The fire was very close now. "Jenny," Marcus called out as he entered the office space. "Jenny from accounting. Can you hear me?" The floor seemed empty at first, but Marcus methodically checked every office, break room, and storage area. In the back corner of the floor, he found what he was looking for, and what he was afraid of. Jenny was unconscious on the floor of a file storage room, overcome by smoke. She was still breathing, but barely. Marcus immediately checked for injuries, then lifted her in a fireman's carry across his shoulders. Getting back to the stairwell with an unconscious person was much harder than Marcus had expected. Jenny was not heavy, but carrying her while wearing breathing equipment and moving through smoke-filled hallways was exhausting. Every step was a struggle. Halfway to the stairwell, Marcus heard a sound that made his blood run cold. The roar of flames somewhere on the same floor. The fire had reached the 17th floor. They had minutes, maybe less, before the entire area would be engulfed. Marcus pushed himself harder, drawing on every bit of strength and endurance from his military training. Jenny's life depended on getting her to fresh air and medical attention as quickly as possible. When he finally reached the stairwell, firefighters were already there, alerted by David's report. They immediately took Jenny from Marcus and began administering oxygen while rushing her down to the medical teams. "Is she going to be okay?" Marcus asked as he followed them down. "You got to her just in time," one of the paramedics said. "Another few minutes and the smoke inhalation could have been fatal. She's lucky you went back for her." As they reached the ground floor and Jenny was loaded into an ambulance, Marcus finally allowed himself to feel the exhaustion that was overwhelming his body. He had been running on adrenaline and training for hours, but now the physical and emotional toll was catching up with him. The fire captain found Marcus sitting on the steps outside the building, watching the firefighters continue their battle against the flames. "Rodriguez, I don't know how to thank you. You saved 4 lives today. That's not something most people could have done." Marcus looked up at the building, where lights from the fire trucks illuminated the smoke still pouring from the upper floors. "Captain, in the military, we were taught that the real measure of a person isn't what they do when it's easy. It's what they do when everything goes wrong and people are counting on them. Well, 4 people are alive tonight because of what you did when everything went wrong. Their families are going to go home to them because you refused to give up." As Marcus watched the firefighters gradually bring the blaze under control, he thought about the chain of events that had led to this moment. A routine security check had turned into a life-or-death situation that tested every skill he had learned in 8 years of military service. The building's safety system had failed in the worst possible way, turning protection into a trap. But human courage, training, and determination had overcome the mechanical failure. Maria, Tom, Janet, David, and Jenny were all safe, because people had refused to accept that some situations were hopeless. Marcus stood up and walked toward his car, ready to go home and try to process everything that had happened. Tomorrow there would be investigations, reports, and probably changes to building safety systems to prevent this kind of disaster from happening again. But tonight 5 people were alive who might not have been. And for a former Navy SEAL who had dedicated his life to protecting others, that was enough.